In this clip I'm going to introduce you to a piece of freeware, which is free software downloadable from the internet that can allow you to construct some data envelopment analysis problems and solve them very conveniently. It's quite a flexible piece of software. It's called DEAP, D-E-A-P, and it's available from the web. We can click into your favorite browser and do a search for DEAP download software, and you go to this link, DEAP University of Queensland, and you can download the software from here, which gives you a zip file, and that will go into my download folder in a moment. These are the files that are contained within the zip file. You can see there's a PDF file here which is worth having a look at because it's got a lot of information about DEA in general, and round about here information about the DEAP computer program and how you use it. But I'll give you something about the basics right now. I'm going to download the various files in here into a location on my computer that I'll select now. So you can choose to put this anywhere on your computer that you like, but I'm going to put it here. I'm going to create a folder called DEAP to put it into. There it is. And I'm going to extract all files to that location. There we go, and here they are in that location now. So what we can see here is there are some key files called eg1.dta.txt, and that's where we hold the data that we use in the data envelopment analysis program. There's an eg1-ins.txt, and that is an instruction file, and we give the program a whole load of instructions using that file. And eg1out.txt is where the results of the data envelopment analysis turn up. Okay, so first of all we need to look at the data that we're going to put into here. In this Excel file I've stored the data that we're going to look at. So we've got several columns of data here. The first column is headed DMU, which stands for Decision Making Unit, and it's just an index of the producers that we are investigating. So these may be firms or banks, all of which are converting inputs into outputs. The inputs I'm considering are labour and machines, and we've got data on the input levels of each of those for each firm here. And the output, I'm only considering one output, and that is sales revenue, and I've got it in this column here. Now for DEAP we don't need the information on decision-making units, so we can delete that column altogether. We also need the information on outputs to come before the information on inputs. So I'm going to create a new column here, and I'm going to copy the sales data into this column. So the sales come before the labour and the machines. The outputs come before the inputs. DEAP doesn't like any text, so we delete the line of headings. So we're left with just these data. And also DEAP wants the data to appear in a text file. So I'm going to save this as an MS-DOS text file, and I'll keep calling it Book 1 at this stage. I'll move it over into the directory that I want in a moment. So I'll save that, go out of it, and you can see if I go into book1.txt, there are the data. I'll go into that again, and I will save it as something that's in the file where my DEAP program is. So I go into DEAP, and I will save it as eg1-data.txt. So I'll write over the file that came with the download of DEAP. So if I now go into this file, you can see it's the data that I created and converted from the Excel file. If I go into the instruction file, you'll see that this calls for information on where the data are held, which is eg1-data.txt. Gives an output file name, which can be anything, but which we'll look at to see the results. And then there's information on the number of firms in our data set, the number of time periods, number of outputs, number of inputs, whether we want input or output orientation, which doesn't matter in the case of a CCR or a constant returns to scale DEA. Information on whether we're constant returns to scale or variable returns to scale, and further information about the model. If I had more than 2 inputs, I would need to change this to 3 or 4 or whatever. But in the example that we've got, I've got 2. If we had more than 1 output, I'd need to change this 1 to 2 or 3 or whatever. But as it happens, I just have 1. If there were more firms in my sample, I'd need to change the number of firms and so on. For this example, I'm going to be happy to estimate a constant returns to scale. So this is going to be 0. And a DEA, so this is going to be 0. But I can imagine that you might want to look at a DEA that looks at performance over a number of years, in which case you would want to increase the number of time periods here. You might want to do a Malmquist DEA. The flexibility to choose all these different models is there in the data that we have. So I'll save this instruction file, and we'll see in a moment how that gets used. To run DEAP, we double click on deep.exe, and that comes up with a bit of text in a black box that asks us to enter the instruction file name. And if we do this, we simply put in eg1-ins.txt, which is the instruction file we were looking at a moment ago. It's got all the information there it needs about where it gets the data from, which models to run, and where to drop the output in the output file. So we hit return, everything goes blank, and we get a new output file being created here, eg1-out.txt. If we double click on that to open it, we get the results. These are the efficiencies of the firm. We get further information about peers and about peer weights in this file. So tremendous amount of information automatically provided for us within DEAP. For panel data, we give information on each time period in sequence. So we'd get all 5 firms, if there are 5 firms, in the first 5 rows for the first year. Then for the second year, it would be the next 5 rows, and so on. But I would recommend that you consult the DEAP manual that is in this PDF file for further information about how to run Malmquist indices on panel data in this software. Particularly attractive software, not least because it's free. You can take it away, use it on your own laptops, and a very flexible, very powerful piece of free software.